here at UA Global Campus. Welcome to Caring, Sharing, and Open Access, the Transformative Power of OER. I now introduce your presenter, Dr. Teresa Handy.
Hi, everyone. I'm so glad that you made it over, even though we had the little Zoom snafu. So we're going to get started. We've already lost a couple of minutes. So first, I want to just share a little bit about myself with you all so that you all can know a little bit about me in case you haven't met me before. You can see in the photos, you see my family. You see our puppy, Sammy, who's almost 14 years old. We lost him last month on March 20th, rather suddenly. But he's still a big part of my heart. My daughter's a freshman at the University of Michigan, and my son works in agribusiness. My husband is a farmer and a business owner. So you kind of see our world, what my world looks like, and the places where in the spaces where I sit. I see a lot of different environments. It's kind of fun watching my daughter navigate AI. But professionally, I am a program chair and assistant professor at UAGC, and I sit on the faculty council as one of the co-chairs. And I'm the inaugural faculty fellow for Open Educational Resources, hence this session. And I want you all to know that seeing students has been a huge part of my work, from my K-12 experiences all the way through my work as a DEI administrator. And seeing students is how I became a huge advocate of OER. But before I even get started even more, I want to ask how many of you all are familiar with OER and what that stands for? You can just use your thumbs up emoji or throw your hand up like Dan did. Okay, so I don't know if anyone is in the chat had said, okay, good. So we have some people who are familiar. Very cool. Well, I kind of lost my, I was trying to lower this. Let me see. Hold on one second. Let me kind of minimize. There, I minimized you all. So open educational resources, or OER, are openly licensed, freely available educational materials that can be adapted, remixed, and reused by users. They can include any type of educational resource, from syllabi to a whole course. In my research study that I did with our entry point course, Gen 101, we chose open educational resources so that students could access these supportive materials outside of Gen 101 and throughout their academic and professional careers. We also wanted to make sure that these OER were available to faculty in all disciplines at our college by providing resources they could customize to meet the needs of their students. And by providing these resources outside of the course curriculum, faculty could use them in their announcements or as part of their outreach efforts. Most importantly, we wanted them to be free to all students. Open educational resources can look like any of these. As I mentioned, they can go from a syllabi to the full course, assessment items. In our case, in the Gen 101 OER study, we did not complete a textbook or a course, but a girl can dream. And that's one of my hopes that we can do, because now we are going to have a partnership with Pressbooks, which will allow us to get closer to that goal. The most used assets we created were videos and podcasts, as well as some infographics. So now I want to know if there are materials or resources that would better support your course, but are not currently available. So can you put that in the chat? And Dan, do you mind reading out any answers that you may get?
Yep.
And I'll just kind of, while people are typing, or if they do, I'm just going to continue. So I have a colleague at a college in Arizona who teaches government accounting, and he could not find the textbook that he wanted. So he wrote the textbook as an OER textbook. I know in my case, I wanted very specific resources that address the needs and interests of our non-traditional adult learners. And I didn't want to use just any old internet resources. I wanted to use things that were branded UAGC and written by UAGC experts, subject matter experts. So I want you to think about what resources you would like to have for your students. And then I want you to know that it's possible for you to create that, and you can make it available to others as well. So one of our challenges in our entry point course at an open access institution is that students enter at all different ages, stages, and levels of experiences, both life and career. And just so you know, that pinging is my college daughter walking across campus, calling me because she always does to talk and walk. So sorry about that. So creating a course that is robust and rich in information can be a challenge. In addition, as program chair, I found myself always looking for additional information to supplement the provided course materials. I found myself wanting to create these resources so that they were there for students that I serve. As I began to think about all of this, I went to a conference and I realized that open educational resources are affordable and allow us a way to meet the needs of our specific students. So, Dan, were there any comments in the chat? I didn't see the number change, so.
No, there's nothing's come in yet. I do have one thought myself that I can just throw
Yeah.
out there is I think in my space, we use a lot of laws as well as government documents. And
Mhm.
so it might be good to have something that sort of synthesizes that as you're trying to teach a theme, you can plug all those things in together as opposed to it just being here's a bunch of documents,
I
you know.
love that. And I will tell you that I've met with some of our colleagues where they want to compile that as and I forgot what Kira Heskey calls it. There's like a name for it, but there's a way that we can compile all of those and create that kind of like a supplemental resource for your course. So definitely reach out to me because we would love to pull that together for you all. So thank you for that, for sharing that.
We've got a note here that says OER Commons.
Yes, we're going to talk about OER Commons later. Who said that?
Felicia Banks, it looks like.
Okay, awesome, Felicia. We're going to talk about OER Commons. So for the Gen 101 OER study research project, we provided faculty created and curated resources. So some of the materials we used already existed and we just collected them, remixed them, or we used them as they were. But we wanted to foster inclusion and academic success in our course and to improve the student learning experience as well. That was really important to us. And you'll see some of the data later where we talk about that. So let's talk about how Gen 101 leveraged OER. Research demonstrates that students who experience a greater sense of belonging at their college tend to have higher motivation and more academic self-confidence and higher levels of academic engagement and achievement. We wanted students to understand that faculty see and understand their non-academic struggles and barriers to success in the classroom as a way of destigmatizing these non-academic challenges while also establishing that critical social presence in the classroom that can help students become more academically successful. Additionally, we wanted to provide resources to help students see the relevance of the Gen 101 course content for their academic work and how building SMART goals and conducting a SWOT analysis can help them be successful in academics, in their academics and in their future careers. And so on this slide, you can see the weekly focuses of our course and then all of the assets that were created to support those themes for the course. While not specific to Gen 101, these topics impacted learners on a daily basis. So mental wellness, substance abuse, and reentry were big topics for a lot of our students. So by providing these resources, we were able to kind of reduce the stigma students may feel while also helping them not struggle silently. And we know that these resources can help them feel seen and supported as they work to be the best version of themselves. While not, here is an older, so one of the things that happened during our research is that our project is that our students, our site was sunsetted. So we weren't able to keep it up. But this was the Gen 101 OER hub, which was on a public facing site. And this site held all of the assets that the faculty from our program developed. All of the open educational resources were housed here. Our videos, our podcasts, the infographics that supported academic success, as well as as personal well-being articles. Some of the resource topics included time management, procrastination, goal setting, college writing anxiety, mental health, physical wellness, and finding support networks. I think you kind of see that whole theme of caring in there. That was really important to us because the entry point course, students often are nervous, they're excited, they haven't been to college in 12 years, 20 years. You know, they're working, they're maybe deployed. There are lots of things happening. And our first course gives us the opportunity to kind of direct them to resources and direct them to support materials that can help them ease their stress and make them feel more confident in their transition to college. Faculty were offered these OERs to share with their students in their courses. So we had a set amount of courses, about 14 to 15 courses. We had letters loaded into Signals. We had links for them, and they use these articles in personally tailored emails as well as their general course announcements. One of our best resources was created by Jennifer Dunn, which was a video that addressed college writing anxiety, huge for our entry point students. And she also created another resource, which was a walkthrough brainstorming video where she modeled from beginning to end how to begin that very first week 2 journal writing assignment in Gen 101. This was very helpful for our students because getting started is often something that really is a hindrance for our students. They just can't get started. But once they get started, they're excited to kind of write and try everything out. Dan, I see the chat. Is there anything that I'm happy to answer?
Oh yeah, I mean, I feel like you're probably just doing that just to get some props. You have a student on here that mentioned that her name is well, she goes by Zag, and she said you taught her Gen 101 course, and she had lost her emotional support animal during that time, and you were like mad supportive, and she actually just reread your emails, and so she was.
You're gonna make me cry during this session. Don't do that. But I'm so
Yeah,
glad
she
you're
was
here.
also condolences for your dog was what she was expressing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that was a tough, tough move for our family. Oh, I don't want to go there. Woosah. I just left a good session that can help me kind of recenter. So, but thank you. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here. So I'm not really sure whether or not these resources were available for you during your course whenever I taught you, but anyone who's taken that Gen 101 course knows that that week 2 journal writing assignment can kind of stump students. So I love that Jennifer Dunn was able to kind of model that for our students. So here are some additional assets that were created by Dr. Connie Lauer, who's one of the Gen 101 instructors, and she created some great resources around procrastination as well as getting started. One of her get started videos it's very lively and exciting, and Dr. Lauer is so good about breaking assignments down for students. And a lot of times that's what students need to see and hear so they can then attack their work in the class. Harla Frank, who was one of the other professors who was part of the research team, created podcasts and vodcasts to support the main topics in the course and to show students how they can use these tools from their very first course at UAGC to prepare for their career goals. The vodcast takes students through a comparison. You have one student who is taking one course at a time, not really thinking about connecting it to her job interviews or her career. And then you have another student who's using the tools that he's getting in class every day to prepare for his dream job and for his first in the next step in his career path. So one student is being very intentional and one student is just kind of going through the motion. And these podcasts and vodcasts help students to kind of calibrate and kind of get in line with what their goals are. And they also see that, some of the things they're feeling is normalized. In addition, Harla Franks also made podcasts and vodcasts accessible. That was so important. She considered learners who were diagnosed with disabilities, such as hearing and vision challenges. In order to make podcasts accessible, she utilized the vodcast that included text on the screen. And then also there was live captioning for different podcasts and vodcasts, and the transcripts were available. And then for those with vision loss, descriptive transcripts allowed for a more immersive experience, because that way they were describing the settings and images and diagrams in each of the scenes. So those considerations we feel really demonstrated our care and consideration of the needs of all of our students. So let me share some data with you. 98% of the students accessed the materials. We had over 256 student responses. 94% of the students said the materials were helpful to their Gen 101 learning experience, and 86% said the materials made them feel more connected to the course content and other students. So there you have the data if you're wondering whether or not this is something you want to consider. One of the questions we asked is, do you feel OER materials in this Gen 101 course have helped you feel more connected to the course content and the other students? And guess what? The student said it helped them figure it out. Another student said that the resource materials offered helped them to feel more confident in knowing exactly what the assignment was asking of them and trying to teach them. Now, lest we think that all things are picnics and roses and, unicorns and rainbows. No, there were some students who felt the materials weren't necessary and not really interesting. So you win some, you lose some. But I definitely think that trying to at least explore OER is worth the effort, I think. And I think it would be an exciting adventure for some people who haven't actually been published recently or are kind of nervous about trying to get into the publishing. So overall, there was an appreciation for the diversity of storylines. So we know now that you're all on board, right? I hope you are. You know that it makes sense. You've heard the student voice. So you're wondering, how do I get started? And I think Felicia Banks mentioned OER Commons. This is a really easy place to get started. And you can start by visiting OER Commons, and that's the QR code on the screen. And then in addition to that, they have a how to use OER Commons. So there are many OER repositories and platforms, but today we're going to just talk about a few of them. This particular repository has over 50,000 open educational resources. Every single item is cataloged and organized with a specific field or subject matter. And there are OER groups. So you can work with people who are interested in the things that you're interested in. And they also have OER hubs, which is kind of like the library. So it's free. It's subject-based, it's role-based. It's definitely a good place to start exploring ideas, borrowing materials, and even, participating without any pressure. Within the app, you can remix or build custom OER materials. So again, I would recommend going there, looking for groups and topics that you're interested in. And of course, if you ever just want to talk to me about it, you can always, we can get on a Zoom and go through it together. Another resource for people who are interested in editing a textbook but not quite sure where to start, you have OpenStax. This is based out of Rice University. It comes in multiple formats, free to use, free to read online, free to download, and it comes with instructor and student resources. Again, maybe there's a textbook out there, but you want to add a chapter specific to your course. You can remix, you can borrow chapters out of a textbook, whatever the licensing agreement is through Creative Commons, then that's what you have to follow. Oops, went back the wrong way. So Pressbooks is another platform, and this is exciting because we're going to start building a relationship with Pressbooks shortly. This is a web-based publishing platform. You can create, you can edit, you can share books and other OER. You can build course materials. You can export all different types of books, a web book, a PDF, an ebook, a Word document. All of the accessibility that we're having to deal with is built in, which is amazing. There's opportunity to collaborate with other authors. So maybe there's a friend. I know Dr. Banks she's very broad network. She may want to write a book with someone at another institution. They can work together in Pressbooks together and not have to actually ever meet up and talk. You can do all your work in Pressbooks. So it's awesome. And we're going to start building that relationship with Pressbooks very soon. And we hope that we can then start, publishing books and other materials. So at UAGC, we had to create an ecosystem to kind of get this moving. I actually reflected on this. It's been about almost 3 years of us kind of working, building this brick by brick. You had some people over in Learning Resources doing some work around OER, and they created the Gen 101, the Gen 104 textbook. And then you had me over here kind of learning about it and trying to get more faculty interested. We had to get leadership on board, the librarians, you have Kira Heskey, everyone, Rebecca Painter, she's amazing as an editor. We are all working together, and I've learned so much working with Learning Resources and the library and all those folks, because as a faculty, you don't really know how the picture works. All you know is that I'm interested in doing this research. I want to create this material. But it's so exciting to learn how all of the little pieces work together to create the material that's going to benefit our students and actually contribute to student success. So one thing we learned is that you have to start early, engaging way before pre-course development, way before, because faculty need to lock in on content, they need to align their assessments, address accessibility. So really, if you're wanting to do OER and your course development is like less than a year out, it may be difficult unless you're going to just remix some things. But if you want to create, it can take a little bit of time. So make sure you're planning for that. This ecosystem approach reduces barriers to OER. So no single team owns anything. Each step feeds into and supports one another. And so that's how you can build to scale this OER project at your institution. And we encourage you to do that because it's exciting to see how we can impact our student experience by reducing their cost. So let's talk about some organizations as we get ready to wrap up. It's hard to do anything like this without community. And I'm a part of OER Arizona Network, which is an Arizona-based organization. And OER Arizona has free trainings, asynchronous and synchronous trainings. They're so supportive of the institutions within Arizona, but also just beyond. In February, we just had our, I think it's eighth annual conference, which was amazing over 2 days. Check out the website to find out when the next one is for next year. UAGC will be hosting. And then in the middle, you have OpenStax, great for general education, high enrollment courses. They have free peer-reviewed textbooks. They have an actual faculty educator login, so that's this QR code for that. There's also Open Education Network, which is the best overall starting point for new faculty. They have free webinars and discussions and professional learning opportunities. You can engage with OEN and all the resources, even if your institution isn't a paid member. University of Arizona is, so that's how we get to be a part of that. Then you have bottom left, Libra